We're speaking today with ballerina and now author Georgina Pazcoguin.
Hello.
Georgina Pazcoguin, the Rogue Ballerina, has danced with the New York City Ballet since 2002 and was promoted to soloist in 2013. A steadily rising star, she is an ambassador of her art on many platforms, crossing over to Broadway, TV, and film in addition to her many appearances at the New York City Ballet, including a celebrated portrayal of Anita in Jerome Robbins' West Side Story, which looked great by the way. Her credits include award-winning film Opus Jazz, Ivy in the Broadway revival of On the Town, and Victoria in the Broadway revival of Cats. Georgina is a passionate activist for the Orphaned Starfish Foundation, and she is co-founder of the globally recognized diversity initiative, Final Bow for Yellowface. She lives in New York City, and a half hour with her will shake your stereotype of uptight ballerinas to bits.
Sure will.
Better. Okay, good. How are you today, Georgina?
I'm doing well. Thanks.
Okay, great.
Thanks for having me, John.
Joining us here. Yes. You're the first author we've had in person for months.
Well, that's
really only the second since the pandemic.
Wow,
So
that's a particular honor.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So your new book is titled Swan Dive and is published by Henry Holt Publishing. The book is a part memoir of being accepted to and then rising up in the New York City Ballet, which is an outstanding accomplishment. What would you say was the hardest part of this journey, and what was the best part?
Ooh. What was the hardest part of this journey in writing the book, or this journey in my story of experiencing
rising up through the New York City Ballet.
There are many
Okay.
hurdles to cover. So I think the hardest part was finding my own voice as a ballerina. And there's this stereotype of what the world thinks a ballerina is, which is mostly silent and obedient.
Yeah.
I am neither one of those. I can be obedient, but only when I see fit to. And so it was me finding my own voice and finding my agency in a world that doesn't necessarily want me to have my fullest agency. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And then what was the most exciting?
What was the best part?
Oh,
Most exciting, best, whatever?
I mean, the most exciting and best part of this process of becoming a ballerina is achieving the goal and being able to do what I love for a living every single day. And I think that's only been made more clear in this time where we've experienced so much loss and so much inner reflection that I'm just so lucky to be able to come back and now have a book and dance and hopefully bring new audiences to the theater, which is why this is here.
Yeah, fantastic. This may require some simplification, but what would you like readers to get from reading Swan Dive?
I would love for readers to understand that the artists that they see on stage are real people, and I want to break down the stereotype of what a ballerina is, and that you have to be of a certain status or class to walk into a theater, that ballet is for everyone. And in my particular case, I'm sharing with you me, and I'm a really humorous person, and there are other really big personalities like mine that are in my world of ballet, and I just want you to get to know us, not only on the stage, but off the stage as well.
Yeah, your performances, I've seen it, your personality really comes across. It's
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Now, how did you choose the title Swan Dive?
This was a back and forth. I wanted to sort of take on Swan Lake because that seems to be the most relatable title. I mean, there was there's been movies modeled after it and so on and so forth, but I am not an Odette Odile character, and I needed to be true to my authentic self, which is quite humorous, and as a ballerina who actually falls a lot, I was trying to do a play on words. So I went to sleep pondering this. I woke up at 3 a.m. and I was like, aha, Swan Dive works for me.
That's good. I didn't realize or catch the Swan Lake reference, but that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, you have
That's
it.
perfect. That's perfect. You studied at the School of American Ballet, and why is this significant?
Studying at the School of American Ballet is significant because it's the feeder school to the New York City Ballet. The only way to really get into New York City Ballet is to study at the school. and so that's why it's important that I came through there. And for me, I didn't start my training at School of American Ballet. I started in Altoona, but I finished my training there, and that's when I really honed in on the specificity of the balancing technique, which is where I got my wings and to move as fast as I do.
Gotcha. Beautiful. What happened right after you started studying there? I think there's an incident in your book.
I moved to New York City on September 7th of 2001. And the day I started at Professional Children's School and the first week of our classes at School of American Ballet, so I just left my parents, and I'm one of 6 kids, and so it was a huge shift already, but then September 11th occurred, and it changed all of our lives moving forward. So that was a huge, huge event that kind of...
How did it affect you at the time?
I would say it affected me immeasurably. It was such a trauma, and I wasn't sure how to process this sort of grief.
Did it
that
make
seemed
your dance harder, or?
It did in a way. I mean, obviously there was something that was so much larger than me, and this pursuit of being a dancer. So like I had already cued into that. I think I've always been somewhat of an empath and feeling this pain, but like just New York in general we had no idea, and in the fear of like would a cultural what's the word I'm looking for? Would a cultural iconic place like Lincoln Center possibly be the next target? So there was an actual physical fear, and then also coming from an Army family, I knew immediately that there would be repercussions and that the people in my family would be called upon to defend. So it was a lot. It was a lot for a young woman to process and to not immediately have her family there. But I speak so much to what the School of American Ballet did at that time, and I just, I had a Nokia, that old school dinosaur Nokia, and you couldn't even call your parents. Like the cell towers were down, and when I finally did get in touch with my mom, she wanted me to stop dancing, but I felt that wouldn't help the world. Like my gift is, in an indirect way, giving that separation from the terribleness of what occurs in our daily lives. I provide a release from that.
It is also the story of a young woman of diverse background working her way up through a world of barriers to that success. I think your relationship with Peter, I won't say the last name because you don't through most of the book, in the book is an example of this. Can you tell us more about that?
I kind of got lost in the question.
Okay.
So...
Well, it's the story of your working up with a diverse background through the New York City Ballet.
Yes. So you want me to speak to myself being a multicultural woman in the okay, and how that played, and how Peter didn't understand that. So I didn't realize when I came to the School of American Ballet that I would end up being the first Asian American woman to ever be promoted out of the corps de ballet at New York City Ballet. I had no idea that I was going to end up being able to be a ballerina for my job. And then when I did get this amazing opportunity, and I was given this opportunity by Peter, and then thrust into rebuilding myself. You're at the top of the school, you get into a company, and you have to work your way up again. All of a sudden I was made very aware that I was other, that I was different. And so that has definitely impacted how I have practiced, how I've had to prove myself beyond the normal merits of someone who doesn't share my multicultural heritage. And I think that's what makes my lens and hearing this lens so important, because it's a relatable voice. It's a voice of the global majority. And even though ballet stems from a white Eurocentric culture, it is not just for European nobility anymore. I'm really trying to drive home the point that, like, if I can fall in love with it and experience all of the fraught relationships and hardships, but still love it, it's worth saving.
You invested in a ballet costume at one point. Why do you say that that was one of the wisest investments that you've made?
So the ballerina tutu,
Yes.
it is not an inexpensive item, but it was an item that I thought I owed to myself, because it was shortly after I got promoted, and I knew once at New York City Ballet, once you're promoted to soloist, you're allowed to do outside gigs. So I needed a costume that, first and foremost, was custom tailored to my body. Everything feels good when it's custom tailored to you. And more importantly, I didn't want to have to borrow the dingy costumes that New York City Ballet lets you take away, for obvious reasons. You know, like anything can happen. Like a suitcase can get lost. I've heard stories of dancers leaving their tutus on the plane in the overhead bin, which is unfortunate. I didn't want to be one of those dancers, and so, you know, I invested in myself to put forth not only my best foot, but my best looking face, and so when I represent not only myself, I'm representing New York City Ballet, and it's the prettiest costume I can find. It's all part of branding, right?
Yeah, it's part of branding. It's also cleaner and
it's cleaner. It's just mine.
Yeah. Can you tell us about the Orphaned Starfish Foundation and the Final Bow for Yellowface initiative?
Yes. So Orphaned Starfish Foundation was founded by my dear friend Andy Stein. There will be a gala coming up in October. I believe it's October 30th, and it's the 20th anniversary. And I work with OSF in traveling to third world countries to work with the at-risk youth there. And one of my first trips was to Nicaragua, and I haven't, because of the political unrest, I've not been able to return, so it's devastating. And it was right after I had torn my ACL, and I had promised these young women who had gone through so much worse than I have that they would need a ballerina, and I was devastated that I would disappoint them. And through my various, you'll learn about my PT habits. It's somewhat in the book, but like more coming in the marketing. But like I saw as a particular healer who at least made it so I could go on the plane and walk with my knee brace. And me not speaking the language, I understand Spanish, but I don't speak it fluently. What was able to be shared through this universal language of dance and how we were able to uplift each other, these young women taught me more about myself than I could have ever.
Okay, you mentioned adrenaline prominently in the book.
Yes.
What qualifiers or attributes do you feel were key to your success?
And how it relates to adrenaline?
Well, I thought that when I was reading it, I felt that you mentioned adrenaline because you felt it was part of how you got through some of the very hard moments.
I think adrenaline is just like, I feel like that's why people like jump out of planes. It's a sense of feeling alive. And so when I talk about adrenaline, it's really, I think it could be fair to say that a lot of people think the ballet is boring. Like the gentleman who just came here, he didn't think of it as it could be as exciting as watching a sports event.
Right.
And I'm saying that, oh yes, it can be that exciting. And if anything, it's a contact sport that has no padding. So
True.
So think more rugby
Yeah.
than football. American football, I should specify. So that's what I talk about adrenaline in this passion that sharing one's gift with an audience and then combining that with live music. It feels like this. It feels like a transformer movement, you know.
I'll say why I mentioned the adrenaline, because I remember a passage where you were scheduled to perform, but someone on the staff was making it very difficult for you to appear at the right moment.
Oh, yes, that's what I was going to plan to read.
Oh, yes, that part. Yeah, it's a good read. Okay.
That's a good read.
Okay. So do you feel that helped your success, or are there more other things that are more important to you?
I think it's not about that. I feel like the adrenaline it's a side effect of of reaching this pinnacle of dance. But to get there, it's not like I used adrenaline to fuel myself through. That was just inner rage. Inner fury at injustice that fueled me to dance better. I think I even mentioned it in a sentence that, like, I am someone who does well under extreme pressure. So it was sort of that. It was the challenge of, like, you think I can't do this. Not only when I show you I can do this, but I can excel at it.
Okay, the physical, well, brings us to the next question. The physical demands of a ballet career are said to be more demanding than even the toughest of professional sports. How do you deal with that? And how long do you expect you can keep on doing it?
How do I deal? Well, I'm coming to you after an acupuncture appointment, a 3-hour muscle release therapy treatment on my day off yesterday, and a PT appointment. So it's so much recovery time on top of the training. It's a lot of time management, which I fear right now I'm not doing very well. But it's pushing forward. It's the discipline that is that is inherently based in the study of ballet that has made it also the discipline of recovery to be able to continue as an athlete. I mean, if you think of a Tom Brady, he does so much to set himself up to succeed, including being able to sleep at the right temperature. Now, I don't make enough money to be able to do stuff like that, or to have a team come, work with me at my home. But like every single dancer that's made it to a professional level puts that amount of effort into recovery. And so it very much is this hybrid. We are artists, but we are also supreme athletes. And I think that's a little known fact.
You danced with your torn ACL, right?
I did. So there are two different types of people when they tear an ACL. There's like copers and non-copers. Turns out that I can withhold so much pain before I can have to stop that I was able to dance with a torn ACL. Granted, I was making like a brace with tape on my knee. But that was also coming from a place of fear. A fear that I would, if I were to fix what I had broken, that I would lose my place in the company. Fear that I had to put my life, my career in the hands of a surgeon. Granted, my surgeon was wonderful, Dr. Scott Radio. He took such great care of me. It was a practice of trust which I had not been afforded up to that. I had not had a chance to build because of the inherent competitive nature of ballet.
What is or are your favorite ballets to watch or perform?
Ooh. Favorite ballets to watch and or perform? I have to say I am a huge fan of Symphony in 3 Movements, which is a Balanchine black and white ballet, which partnership with Stravinsky, the composer. And there's such power, speaking of athleticism, such power with both the male and female, and it's a huge core ballet. It's not just about the principles in that situation. I love to dance that. I still miss that because now being a soloist, I no longer dance my core roles. And that was one of the roles that I lamented giving up. Trust me, there were a lot of roles that I was ready to give up, but not that one. So I still love watching it. I absolutely love performing West Side Story, just because I get to utilize some of my other talents of, acting and singing. To watch another one that's actually going this season is Serenade. I think it's beautiful and so romantic, and just like that music just sweeps you off your feet. I'm more of a 30-minute ballet than I am like a full-lengther. I'm not I'm like let's give me 3 different things. Give me a little menu.
Well, it is. Our society is, I think, much shorter attention spans than what were
Right.
happening in the 18th century.
Well, I just think it's also just right now, I personally feel like our full lengths that we present, they're outdated. They're telling stories about females that have no agency, and I think we are due for an overhaul of what we present in our full length spectrum. But so yeah, I'm happy to curate an evening of dance for anyone who wants to ask for one.
I thought that was one of my questions. Do you write ballet, or would you think about writing?
I think that would be my dream job. I think I'd love to be a dramaturg of ballet. I'm not a choreographer. I am definitely, for as long as my body will allow me to dance, which is coming back to answer your question, I can't say how long. I think that's up to fate, and that's up to. I'm blessed to be able to still do this now. I think I will transition into different kinds of storytelling, whether it's a reappearance back on Broadway or more TV and film. I have no intention of leaving City Ballet in the near future, so I'm happy to hold it down on stage there. But I'm always one for curiosity, and I want to tell new stories. So yes, I have new stories. I think that's also something that Final Bow for Yellowface is doing. We are going to become gold standards arts, and we've already have 6 major ballet companies committed to telling new stories with all Asian creative casts, and I think that's important.
What is Final Bow for Yellowface, actually?
So Final Bow for Yellowface is a diversity initiative that I started with best friend Phil Chan, and it happened around the time I got injured at 2017. I'm not one to stay idle, and we were already having discussions. A lot of discussions were happening within the ballet world about how we can make our stages more inclusive, how do we diversify, and it stemmed from me posing a question and being like, what are we going to do about the Chinese divertissement in the Nutcracker? And I talk about it in the book, and you can read more about it there, but since then, it started off as a pledge. I love ballet, and in order for it to survive into the future, I'm committed to holding myself accountable for talking to my artistic directors, the fellow dancers around me, that we have to eliminate outdated and offensive stereotypes of Asians on stage. So it's since blossomed. We are in our 5th year. We are a toddler now, and we are now holding companies accountable. We've got following up, like six different companies have committed to all Asian creative teams telling Asian stories by 2024-25, and that's huge and really exciting. Is
that strictly ballet, or does it go into other performing?
I think ballet is my lane, and already inspired. We've inspired the Asian Opera Alliance, and so they're doing a model of our work in the opera space, which is amazing. That's the whole point. It's to empower individuals. Phil and I didn't start this discussion, and we're not going to finish it, and we need everyone to work together in their own respective arts lanes to really create tangible change, not just posting a black square on an Instagram, not just performative actions, but real tangible change.
So you see this going into the future?
Absolutely.
That's something you will continue doing?
Absolutely.
All right. Now you kind of answered this partly already, but I'll ask it anyway. Cats and West Side Story were big shows for you. Can you tell us a bit about performing those?
What can I say about being in Cats? That was really just a trip, quite literally. But it taught me so much about creativity, doing the same show 8 times a week, but never feeling bored. That was one of the things that I thought I was going to really struggle with when I chose to embark upon that challenge, that journey. And it was wild to be able to reinvent, like to be so comfortable and get a chance to do something that many times and develop a character, and also just the Broadway family. And it ended up shining a floodlight on my world of ballet and how we are not necessarily treated as adults or individuals in our lane as ballerinas, dancers, and this includes men too. But in the Broadway setting, everyone from stagehand to the security guard to usher was collectively working towards putting this show on every night, as absurd as Cats is. And then just as far as like being part of a global phenomenon.
When was that performance again?
Pardon?
What period did you do that performance in Cats?
I was in Cats from 2016 to 2017.
I didn't get it.
No.
Okay. All right. And West Side Story. Anything to add about West Side Story?
I mean, West Side Story, I have only performed through New York City Ballet. And I think what's been that gave me wings. It really affirmed in me that I do have a want and a desire to express myself with my words and with my voice.
So as an actress as well as a dancer.
Yeah, it was so unique that all of a sudden I felt like the various facets of me came together and amplified everything. And so obviously I dance a lot as Anita, and I think that's what made that show so special.
It looked great too.
Thanks.
Do you enjoy? Oh well, okay. That's actually enjoy other types of dance. Okay, here's the question: do you enjoy other types of dance or other arts or activities? And would you consider writing as well to be a new pursuit beyond your dancing?
I do consider writing to be a new pursuit. I think through my work with American Dance Machine for the 21st Century and forays into Broadway, that gives me a chance to flex different, think of it as languages, dance languages. So I think I really appreciate learning dance style. And so I'm always curious. And if I ever have a down period, which doesn't seem to be happening anytime soon, but I will steep myself in a new practice because I feel like I am an inherently curious person, and I think I will always be a student in a way.
The adrenaline again.
Yeah, I think that's where my competitiveness comes in. Is to it's with myself. It's always about like how can I learn more, and there's always something that I can take and bring back into what I'm focusing in on at the moment. So yes, I'm open to storytelling in any way that can happen.
Any other arts or activities? Or is that...
I'm not. Believe it or not, like I'm not a good drawer, like at all. I do like to sing. It's not like my first talent. I really, really enjoy the spoken word. I really enjoy like being able to express myself. I enjoy reading out loud. I really enjoyed the process of the audiobook. So we'll see. I hope that this book will open more doors. Not only for me, but for people coming back to the ballet. It's a give and a take. That it's mutually beneficial.
Okay. Now the big question: do you have any books coming out in the near future, or anything else, new projects that you can tell us about?
I have many new projects coming out. No books for the time being. Book 2 and 3 we'll have to think about a little bit. But I just curated my first evening of dance with the NYCB Festival on Little Island. That was really magical, and you'll be able to see that program soon. As soon as I get it edited. And then to see me dance, I will be on stage at the New York City Ballet. Casting TBD. As you will learn in the book, it's not privy to me at this moment in time. And the thing that I'm very excited about is Fall for Dance. We are making a world premiere with the Fosse Verdon legacy of 3 vignettes that Gwen had danced on TV show appearances. I believe 2 Bob Hope, 1 Ed Sullivan. We've stitched them together in a magical way. I'm dancing with 2 amazing gentlemen, and it's entitled Sweet Glen Sweet. Those tickets go on sale September 19th at 11 a.m. They will sell out. So they absolutely will sell it. They're only $15. They're accessible.
We'll get this on YouTube before then.
And then the performances are October 13th and 14th. And which is funny because I said, no, the book's not, I have no other books, but there's a different version of Swan Dive being released in the UK on October 14th. So with a different cover, which is kind of a completely different cover, which is such, that's a whole conversation in itself. Like what will market to the United States and what will market to the
I actually am partial to UK covers. I think they do a really good job on
I think they do too. I mean, obviously this one's hilarious. This is like hung over on a beanbag chair, you know?
It's good. Okay, now here's the moment of truth. Holding up your book, could you give us an unabashed pitch for your book Swan Dive and why we should want to read it?
Oh God. Okay. I have to do this. This is Swan Dive. This is my memoir. And if it's good enough for Misha Baryshnikov, it's good enough for you. I mean, if it's good enough for Chita Rivera, it's good enough for you. Zach Posen, Andy Blankenbuehler, and Jose Antonio Vargas, it's good for you.
Read it. Read the book.
Let me do a serious one. You can pick and choose. I don't care. I'd be like, this is Swan Dive, the making of a rogue ballerina. If you've ever wanted to know what it's really like to be a multicultural woman in a ballet company, or just want to hear a story of what it's like to be a woman in this time. It takes place in a ballet setting, but this is really a book that speaks to all women. And honestly, if it's good enough for Chita Rivera, Andy Blankenbuehler, Misha Baryshnikov, Zach Posen, and Jose Antonio Vargas, I think it's good enough for you.
So thank you very much, Georgina Pazcoguin. We have enjoyed learning about your endeavors, struggles, and successes, and we look forward to more great accomplishments from you in the future. Swan Dive is published by Henry Holt Publishing and is available now. Look for the link in the description below to buy your own copy. Thank you, Georgina.
Thank you.